I never thought I'd be the one to ruin a baby shower, but life has a way of making you do things you never imagined. As I sat in my mother-in-law's lavishly decorated backyard, watching my sister-in-law Ashley open her 20th gift while cradling her perfectly rounded belly, I felt the weight of the manila envelope in my purse grow heavier by the minute. 6 months ago, my husband James and I had been carefully building our emergency fund. Every extra penny went into that account. No vacations, no fancy dinners, no new clothes. We had a reason, a devastating one that only we knew about. James needed heart surgery, and our insurance would only cover part of it. The diagnosis had hit us hard. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Genetic. Previously undetected. The doctor's words still echoed in my head. Without the surgery, his condition will only worsen. We needed $50,000 for our portion of the costs, and we were almost there. Almost. Then came the day I checked our account and felt my world spin. Zero balance. Every cent had been transferred out over a series of transactions to another account. James was at work when I called the bank, my hands shaking as they explained that the transfers were authorized by Ashley, whom we foolishly listed as an emergency contact on our accounts years ago when James had his first health scare. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," my mother-in-law Barbara had said when I confronted them. Ashley needed a break. Planning a baby is stressful, and that resort in Bali was exactly what she and David needed to relax before becoming parents. I can still see Ashley lounging on her couch, scrolling through her phone, showing off her vacation photos while my husband sat beside me, trying to hide how winded he got just walking up their driveway. The money was just sitting there, she shrugged. And family helps family, right? We'll pay it back eventually. Eventually. The word made my blood boil. James's doctor had used another word. Urgent. But James, sweet James, raced to never rock his family's boat, just nodded and smiled weakly. "It's okay," he'd whispered to me in the car afterward. "We'll figure something out." That night, I found him sitting in our bathroom, clutching his chest, trying to hide his tears. That was the moment I decided enough was enough. I spent the next few months documenting everything. Every medical report, every bank statement, every text message where Ashley brushed off our requests to discuss repayment. I watched her post daily photos of her growing belly, her designer maternity clothes, the high-end nursery furniture, all while my husband's condition steadily declined. Barbara, of course, was in her element planning the perfect baby shower. "This is my first grandchild," she reminded everyone constantly. Everything must be perfect for Ashley's special day. Now sitting among 30 guests in Barbara's backyard, watching Ashley unwrap another expensive gift, I thought about perfection. The perfect pale pink rose centerpieces, the perfect finger sandwiches, the perfect stack of designer baby clothes piling up around the mother-to-be. Speech. Someone called out as Ashley finished opening her gifts. "Let's hear from the proud grandma." Barbara stood, pearls gleaming in the afternoon sun. "Today is such a blessing," she began, tears in her eyes. "Watching my beautiful daughter prepare to give me my first grandchild. This is what family is all about, supporting each other, being there for each other." I felt James tense beside me. His breathing was labored again, despite sitting still in the shade. This morning, he'd had to rest twice while getting dressed. "Ashley and David are going to be such wonderful parents," Barbara continued. "They've planned everything so perfectly, taken such care to prepare." My hand tightened around the envelope in my purse. 5 years of marriage had taught me a lot about the Matthews family, about how appearances meant everything, about how Barbara's definition of family support only went one way, about how Ashley, the precious only daughter, could do no wrong. And now, Barbara beamed, "Ashley has an announcement to make." Ashley stood, her designer maternity dress floating around her like a cloud. "David and I have decided," she announced, "that we're going to name the baby Barbara, after the best mother and grandmother anyone could ask for." The crowd cooed. Barbara dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. "Oh, my darling girl." "Actually," I heard myself say, standing up. My voice was steady despite my pounding heart. "I have an announcement, too." The crowd turned to me. I saw confusion on some faces, annoyance on others. Barbara's smile froze. "Sarah," James whispered, reaching for my hand. "Maybe not now." But I was done waiting, done watching my husband suffer while his family played pretend. done being the quiet, agreeable daughter-in-law who never made waves. I've been waiting for the right moment to share some important family news, I continued, opening my purse. About support and planning and what family really means. Barbara's eyes narrowed. Ashley shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Sarah, Barbara's voice carried a warning. This is Ashley's special day. I pulled out the envelope, heavy with 6 months of accumulated truth. Yes, I agreed, meeting her gaze. It certainly is special, and I think it's the perfect time to discuss how Ashley helped herself to our emergency fund. The fund we were saving for James's heart surgery. The backyard went silent. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. I looked at the shocked faces around me, at Barbara's reddening cheeks, at Ashley's suddenly pale features, and knew there was no turning back now. Sometimes I thought the truth is the only gift worth giving. The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds before Barbara jumped into damage control mode. This is hardly the time or place, she hissed, trying to maintain her hostess smile. Sarah is obviously confused about some financial matters that can be discussed privately. But I was already pulling out the documents. Actually, I have copies for everyone. Bank statements, medical records, and my personal favorite, screenshots of Ashley's social media posts from Bali, timestamped the exact day our account was drained. You're ruining everything. Ashley burst into tears, her hands protectively covering her belly. The stress isn't good for the baby. Stress? I looked directly at my sister-in-law. Let's talk about stress, Ashley. Let's talk about how my husband can barely climb stairs now because his surgery had to be delayed. The surgery we'd saved for, before you decided you needed a luxury vacation. David, Ashley's husband, stood up, looking confused. What surgery? Ashley told me that money was an early inheritance from James. An inheritance? James finally spoke, his voice quiet but clear. From our emergency fund. I watched the color drain from Ashley's face. I was going to tell you, David, it's just, with the baby coming. With the baby coming, you committed fraud, I finished for her, and put your brother's life at risk in the process. The guests started murmuring. I saw phones being pulled out, no doubt checking Ashley's Instagram feed against my claims. Barbara moved to stand between me and the crowd. Everyone please, she pleaded. This is clearly a misunderstanding. Ashley would never. Show them the doctor's letter, James, I interrupted. Show them what your mother and sister have been ignoring for months. James slowly pulled out his own envelope, his hands trembling slightly. I knew how hard this was for him. The Matthews family didn't do public confrontations. They didn't air dirty laundry. They swept problems under expensive Persian rugs and pretended everything was perfect. Mom, he said softly, holding out the medical documents. My heart condition is getting worse. The doctor says without surgery. His voice cracked. Barbara's perfect mask slipped for just a moment. Why didn't you tell me? We tried, I said, my voice tight with suppressed anger. Every Sunday dinner for months, but you were too busy planning the perfect nursery with Ashley. Too excited about your first grandchild to notice your son couldn't breathe properly. I didn't know it was for surgery, Ashley suddenly shouted. I thought they were just being cheap, hoarding money while I needed things for the baby. Things? I gestured at the mountain of expensive gifts surrounding her. Like the $1,000 stroller, the designer maternity wardrobe, the week at a 5-star resort. David was reading the bank statements now, his face growing darker with each page. Ashley, this says you made multiple transfers. This wasn't a one-time thing. You systematically emptied their account. But we're family, Ashley wailed. Family helps family. Yes, I agreed quietly. Family does help family. Family notices when someone is sick. Family asks before taking. Family doesn't steal money meant for life-saving surgery. The backyard had become a theater of uncomfortable shifting and whispered conversations. Barbara's carefully planned perfect baby shower was crumbling around her, and I could see her desperately trying to figure out how to spin this. Perhaps, she said tightly, we should continue this discussion inside. Away from witnesses, I finished. Away from people who might realize that the perfect Matthews family isn't so perfect after all. James reached for my hand, squeezing it gently, not to stop me this time, but in support. Something had shifted in him as he watched his sister's betrayal being exposed. The surgery, he announced, his voice stronger now, costs $50,000 after insurance. That's what we saved. That's what Ashley took, and now, he paused, taking a shaky breath. Now my condition has progressed to the point where the original procedure might not be enough. Ashley's tears had stopped. She sat frozen, one hand still on her belly, as the full impact of what she'd done finally seemed to hit her. I'll pay it back, she whispered. When? I asked. After the baby comes. After you buy everything on your luxury registry. After my husband's heart gives out. David stood up abruptly. I'll write a check right now. I had no idea. Ashley told me the nursery furniture and vacation were from her savings. David, no. Ashley grabbed his arm. We need that money for the baby. The look he gave her was filled with disappointment and dawning realization. The baby needs their uncle alive more than they need a designer wardrobe. Barbara had sunk into a chair, her perfect posture crumbling. I saw her looking at James, really looking at him, for the first time in months. Seeing the pallor of his skin, the slight blue tinge to his lips, the way each breath seemed to take effort. My boy, she whispered, my baby boy. But it was too late for maternal concern now. Too late for the worry she should have shown months ago, when we first tried to tell her about the diagnosis. A sudden commotion broke out as James stumbled, his hand clutching his chest. I grabbed him before he could fall, helping him to a chair. The party erupted into chaos. Should we call an ambulance? Is he okay? I can't believe Ashley would do this. Poor James. As I held my husband, feeling his heart racing under my palm, I looked at my sister-in-law. She sat amid her expensive gifts and perfect decorations, finally facing the cost of her actions. The perfect baby shower was ruined. But maybe, just maybe, it would save my husband's life. The next few hours passed in a blur of ambulance sirens, hospital corridors, and worried faces. James' episode at the baby shower turned out to be a warning sign his doctor had cautioned us about. His heart was struggling more than ever. He needs the surgery within the month, Dr. Stevens said firmly, looking at the gathered family members in the hospital waiting room. Any further delay significantly increases the risks. I watched Barbara flinch at the word risks. She sat ramrod straight in the uncomfortable hospital chair, her perfect party outfit wrinkled, her makeup smeared from crying. Ashley was noticeably absent. She claimed the stress was too much for her condition. But David had stayed, his checkbook in hand, his face set with determination. I've transferred the full amount, he said quietly, plus extra for any additional expenses. I'll deal with Ashley later. Barbara cleared her throat. I had no idea it was this serious. Why didn't anyone tell me? A bitter laugh escaped before I could stop it. We tried, Barbara. For months, we tried. But you were too busy planning the perfect nursery, too excited about your first grandchild to hear us. Do you remember last Easter? James could barely make it through dinner, and all you could talk about was Ashley's gender reveal party. I remember, a quiet voice said. We turned to see Emma, James's cousin, who had followed us to the hospital. I remember thinking something was wrong, but she trailed off, looking ashamed. We all just followed Aunt Barbara's lead, pretending everything was fine. The Matthews family specialty, pretending everything was fine. Dr. Stevens scheduled the surgery for the following week. As we prepared to leave the hospital, Barbara touched my arm. Sarah, I'd like to help. To make things right. I looked at my mother-in-law, really looked at her. The perfectly coiffed hair was falling flat. The designer outfit seemed somehow diminished, and for the first time, I saw past the matriarch to the scared mother underneath. You want to help? I asked. Then it's time to stop pretending. No more perfect family facade. No more excusing Ashley's behavior. No more ignoring problems because they don't fit your narrative. She nodded slowly, tears forming in her eyes. I've been horrible to you, haven't I? All these years, I thought you weren't good enough for my son. But you're the only one who truly fought for him. The week leading up to the surgery brought changes I never expected. David filed for separation from Ashley, citing her financial deceit as the last straw in a marriage already strained by her excessive spending. Barbara, to everyone's shock, supported his decision. Actions have consequences, she said firmly when Ashley called, crying about David's decision. It's time you learned that, daughter. The morning of James's surgery, the waiting room filled with family members. Real support this time, not just perfectly orchestrated appearances. Emma brought homemade meals for me to heat up during recovery. Tom, James's brother, took time off work to help with household chores. Even Carol, the aunt who usually only showed up for picture-perfect family gatherings, came with coffee and quiet understanding. Ashley didn't come to the hospital, but she sent a letter. I found it in my purse while waiting during James' surgery. Sarah, I know sorry isn't enough. I've spent my whole life being mom's perfect daughter, getting whatever I wanted, never thinking about consequences. I didn't just steal money. I almost cost my brother his life because I thought my wants were more important than his needs. I'm starting therapy next week. David's right to leave. I need to fix myself before I can be a good mother or sister or anything else. The money's been returned, but I know that doesn't erase what I did. Ashley. Barbara read the letter over my shoulder, her hand trembling slightly. I did this, she whispered. I raised her to be entitled, spoiled. I was so focused on maintaining our perfect image that I forgot to teach her real values. The surgery took 6 hours. 6 hours of pacing, praying, and watching Barbara Matthews learn what really mattered. When Dr. Stevens finally emerged with a smile, saying James would make a full recovery, the perfect Matthews matriarch broke down in very imperfect, very real tears. 3 months later, we gathered for Thanksgiving, not at Barbara's perfectly decorated house, but at our small home, with mismatched chairs and paper plates. James, now recovering well, sat at the head of the table. Ashley, showing signs of genuine change through therapy, was there with her new baby, a little girl she had named Sarah, not Barbara. David came separately, civil, co-parenting with Ashley while maintaining his boundaries. Barbara helped me serve dinner, wearing jeans and a casual sweater instead of her usual formal attire. As everyone settled in to eat, she clinked her glass. I want to say something, she began, her voice wavering slightly. This year has taught me that perfect appearances mean nothing compared to genuine love and support. I'm thankful for Sarah, who had the courage to shatter our facade when it needed shattering. I'm thankful for James' recovery. I'm thankful for second chances, to be a better mother, mother-in-law, and grandmother. She raised her paper cup, to real family, messy, imperfect, but true. As I looked around the table, at James's healthy color, at Ashley's humbled but healing spirit, at Barbara's genuine smile, I realized that sometimes it takes breaking something seemingly perfect to build something actually perfect in its place. The emergency fund that almost tore us apart had ultimately forced us to rebuild something stronger. A family based on truth rather than appearances, on support rather than image, on love rather than perfection. And that was worth more than any amount of money in the world.